Hello, geometry students. We have one day of chapter 11 actually. So chapter 11 is all about circles, but we're just going to spend one day answering this question. Can't I find the area of a sector and the length of an arc? So both of those words should be a little bit new, and we're just going to kind of do a quick reminder if you have heard of those things before, and if not, that's okay. The area of a sector is part of the whole area. So it looks something like this. So if here's the whole circle, the whole area, a sector will look like that, like it's a big chunk or a part of the area. Whereas the length of an arc is part of the circumference. So the best example I have for that, just a really quick drawing in one color, goes from one point on the circumference to another point, and it's the distance between those 2 points along the circumference. If I asked for the distance between the 2 points, I don't have a pencil right here, otherwise I'd draw it. It would be the line that connects those two, but it's the distance between them that falls on the circumference. So just a really quick reminder what those are if you've seen those before, and if not, that's what they are. So let's talk about how to find the area of a sector. The first thing you need to do is find the whole area of these circles. So we're just going to dive in with an example. That's usually the easiest way to get started on some of these problems. Draw yourself a circle to the best you can. Hey, I've drawn worse. Nice. Okay, so when we're looking at a sector, that is a chunk. Let's do a 90-degree sector. So we've got 90 degrees there. Let's make our radius, so I don't know, 4. And I want us to find the area of that right there. And I'm hoping at this part you're like, hey, I could totally do that, because I know that 90 degrees of a circle is 1/4 of it. So I could just find the area and take 1/4 of it. And you're completely correct. We're actually just going to jump to a second problem here. So I want to show you why that sometimes works and why you might have to do a little bit more work. Man, these circles are they're all getting wonky. Okay, so in this case, it's not 90 degrees, it's 135 degrees with a radius of 8 units. And I want to find the area of this sector. So sometimes it might be easy. Sometimes you just, if the sector is 90 degrees, you can just find 1/4 of the whole area. But sometimes it's not that easy. And you actually have this on your formula sheet. The formula looks like this. The area over the whole area. Now the whole area is pi r squared. So the small area, or the sector area over the whole area, is equal to the sector degree over the whole degree. And of course I filled that in, but it would be m degrees or whatever you wanted to call it there, a degree measure. Degrees there. So in this case, we're ending up putting the area over the whole area is equal to 1/4. Like if we were to simplify that, that would be fine. But why don't we just do it the long way, because I know it's going to work every single time. Multiply there, my radius is 4, I should have written that in, but that's okay, I'll write it over here. 4 squared is equal to 360 times A. Pretty close, trying to get that area by itself. Divide by 360. So I'm going to plug all of that into my calculator. The best part of having that all right here is you can plug it in exactly as you see it. You do want to put some parentheses there if you are going to type it in all at once. I would type in the numerator, enter, and then press division by 360. That way I don't have to worry about any sort of parentheses. And let's round it to the nearest hundredth. 12.57 units squared. I didn't give us units. In fact, none of these have units today. So we can just make one up if we want to. So in that case, that's how you would find the area. Let's try this one. And again, if you wanted to find out, okay, well, 135 divided by 360, what part of the circle is that? I think it's like, I don't know, let's figure it out. So if you wanted to do it this way, you totally could. 135 divided by 360, and you could take that percentage, that 0.375, and multiply it by the whole area. So if I can find the whole area and multiply it by this, you will get the same answer. So you can totally do it that way. In fact, I will write that down for our second example. So if you want to do 135 divided by 360, that's 0.375. And you can just multiply the area by that measurement or by that small piece. So the area is pi r squared times 0.375. You can plug that into your calculator and you will get 75.40 if you round it to the nearest hundredth units squared, because we're talking about the area here. So two completely different ways of doing it. I shouldn't say completely because they obviously have familiarities, but you can use the formula that's on your formula sheet, or you can just kind of use your, I don't know, previous knowledge of fractions to say, okay, well, I know what percentage or part of the circle, so let me multiply it by the whole. All right, we are going to do something very similar with an arc length. So this will be example 3, and I think we'll be done. And you can do this a few different ways, similar to above. So let's put some points, A and B. Oh, that's not great. Okay, that's okay. 100 degrees. Radius of 9. But in this case, I'm not asking you for the area. I'm asking you, this marker will do. I'm asking you for the arc length, or the distance between A and B, that arc length. Similar up here, you can find the whole area and then just you want a piece of it. Well, let's find the area of the whole circumference and then just take a little part of it. So you have a few different ways of doing this, and in fact, I'll do it both ways. The first way is using your formula on your formula sheet, which looks like this. The length of the arc over the whole arc, which is 2 pi r, because that would be, the whole arc would be the whole circumference, is equal to the degree measure over 360 degrees. I think it looks something like that on your formula sheet. But let's plug in what we know. I'm looking for my L. I don't know that. I do know my radius. And it's 100 over 360. So you can cross multiply there, and you get 100 multiplied by 2 pi r is equal to 360L. So if you cross multiply there, divide both sides by 360, and just type all of that in your calculator. If you do it at once, make sure to use parentheses. Divide by 360, and your length of that arc measure, when you plug that all in and you simplify it to you round to the nearest hundredth, is 15.71 units. Not unit squared. A length or a circumference is just units. You could do it that way. You could do it the other way. You could say, well, 100 divided by 360. You could just type that into your calculator. Now, here's where you probably wouldn't want to write it down and then re-multiply it. I'm going to write it here just for the sake of having it on my paper. But then if I want to take that number, if I want to take that measurement and multiply it by the whole circumference, 2 pi 9, do that right away in your calculator. Like that. Don't try and retype that or anything, or don't round it and then use 0.277. You want to use the whole answer. And look, we'll get the exact same answer, which we should. Because here when we're rounding to the nearest hundredth, you should round up to that 15.71 units.